Sister-in-law is $300K in debt, but that's not her fault. Exploiting debt and a tragic family loss for personal gain.
My sister-in-law, let's call her Shirley, is a class act. She has basically been taking out credit cards as well as loans from banks, friends, and family since she turned 16 because, in her words, she didn't want to be a poor, low-class loser like her parents. She has now run up about $300 in debt, and this is in a poor country, so it's even worse. She has at least 3 maxed-out credit cards, as does her husband. They have even used their daughter's name and ID number to take out more cards, I'm not sure how many. She has borrowed untold thousands from her loser parents, as well as from other family members whom she has criticized endlessly for being low-class in private. She borrowed several thousand from my husband several years ago, but he stayed on her to pay him back, though it took a few years. When he gave her the loan, she had said it was to pay off her house. She has a 5-bedroom villa in a very nice area of a nice city. Instead, she put down payments on 2 brand new cars, even though both of her older ones were relatively new and working fine. Her daughter attends an exclusive private school and always has the latest tech. They go on beach trips a few times a year. Her philosophy is, pay the creditors off just a bit by borrowing money from friends and relatives who are easier to put off, then die in massive debt. She thinks she's a genius, that no one else can manage money like her, and she has poked fun at how my husband and I prefer low-key living as opposed to having all the newest, flashiest things. But here's what makes her a truly terrible person. She basically bled her parents, especially her mom, dry. Her parents, my in-laws, own their own home. They're not rich, but their pensions cover most of their needs, and my husband helps them out as well. My mill found out she had cancer a few years ago. My husband wanted all 3 kids to pitch in and take her to the capital for treatment and set her up in an Airbnb while she recovered. Shirley refused to contribute, saying the state-run medical system was fine. Her husband is a doctor there and he'd oversee things, she said. My husband was enraged, but his mom agreed to it, so not much he could do. After a grueling year, my mill was cancer-free. Shirley's husband did periodic checkups, occasionally sent her for labs. She remained in remission. Then a year later, she began complaining of a pain in her back. Shirley and her husband brushed it off for months, saying she just needed to rest more. Then one day, my mill couldn't move her legs. After being rushed to the local hospital, the doctors found she had a massive tumor in her spine that had essentially broken her back. The same song and dance occurred again, my husband insisting she get private care in the capital, and Shirley rejecting that. She'd take care of her in her own home, she said, as her husband had confirmed the cancer was too far advanced and she'd just need hospice care. Again, enraged husband, but Mill agreed. They could hire a team of nurses, Shirley said. But could my husband pay for that because Shirley can't right now? She'll pay him back. So my Mill went into hospice care at Shirley's house. We were there as much as we could be, but we had a baby and lived far away. Once while we're there, my Mill pulls my husband aside and tells him she's scared because Shirley had been pressuring her to sign some documents, and the painkillers were fogging up her brain and she didn't understand. Shirley told us they were just power of attorney docs to allow her to make emergency decisions. We were uncomfortable, but since Mill was living there and Shirley's husband is a doctor, we thought it would be okay. Shirley and her family were nowhere to be found. We called and called, no answer. We asked one of the aunts about it, and she rolled her eyes and told us what had happened. This aunt had been planning the funeral with Shirley and my father-in-law. During the planning, she discovered Shirley had convinced my Mill about a year ago, right before the doctors found the cancer, and while her doctor husband had been caring for her, to take out a life insurance policy on herself, with Shirley as the sole beneficiary. We would later find out that she somehow bribed a notary to fake the death certificate date and cause of death so she got more money. I'm not sure how that worked, but that's what I was told. In the country we were living in, pretty much anything is possible with a bit of cash. She had also convinced my in-laws to sign over ownership of the house to her so she could secure another large loan from the bank, using the house as collateral. The house was actually supposed to go to my husband and brother-in-law. My husband and Bill get on the phone with Shirley and confront her. Shirley starts screaming at them, telling them their lives have been so much easier than hers and that she has done so much more for their parents than they have, and just telling a whole load of lies about how my husband has always been a freeloader. He has worked since he was 13, paid for his own education, and has a high-level job after working like a dog for 2 decades. She said everyone has always taken advantage of her, and that's why she's in so much debt. Everyone else was at fault except her. We went no contact after that, but Bill and Phil have gotten sucked back into her orbit again, and both have loaned her money. She has even been trying to get my Phil to let her sell the house for him, and then she gives him an allowance every month out of the money from the sale, and he can live with her. Meanwhile, my husband and I moved to the US and are just enjoying our debt-free, entitled, personless lives.
Subscribe.